Hello, my name is Paul Robinson, and I'm one of the analysts with the IHS Pricing and Purchasing Service, and I want to talk to you today about supply chain risk. In September 2013, IHS and Supply and Demand Chain Executive magazine did a survey of supply chain executives that found that 25% view China as the most likely source for volatility within their supply chains. Curiously enough, almost the same number of respondents also said that China would be the area where they were most likely to expand their supply chain in the future. We believe this represents a fundamental mispricing of risk, and we're seeking to develop a framework to better understand how to evaluate risk and purchasing opportunities. Within IHS, we have expertise in country risk analysis and price forecasting analysis. And what we're going to do today is combine those two approaches into a single framework. We're going to use the example of steel sheet. It's very commodity grade. It's used in everything from automobiles to aircraft, and it's produced in several countries around the world, which will enable us to take a step back and look at global developments in a number of different regions. Starting with our established expertise in country risk analysis, we can develop unique risk profiles for specific sourcing decisions based on type of sourcing relationship. A steel sheet purchase is very transactional. There's no servicing contract associated with the buy, no replacement parts to worry about, and very little quality differences between countries. As such, we have a fairly simple risk profile. Our country risk analysts establish subjective probabilities for a number of key risks, and we have selected 3 in this case: enforceability of private contracts, losses due to corruption, and losses due to crime. I chose to weight these risks heavily towards enforceability of private contracts because I'm most concerned about actually getting my hands on the steel, and most of the producers I'm looking at have a good history of low crime and low corruption. The risks laid out in this table show the probability of a defined event being triggered. In this case, a worsening of contract enforceability or an increase in losses from corruption or losses from crime. Unsurprisingly, the United States, Japan, and Germany lead from a risk perspective. What may come as a surprise is China's position as a high-risk country, due in large part to problems with contract enforcement. Turning to our price forecasts, we have discrete econometric models for each of the steel prices that we cover. We look at factors such as raw material prices, wage rates, productivity, profitability, and supply and demand balance in each country to build these forecasts. The results are shown on the screen. The Latin American producers, Brazil and Mexico, are notable outliers on the high side, whereas the Asian producers, China and Japan, are on the lower end of the pricing picture. As we all know, the past is prologue, so for purposes of this exercise, we are going to focus on the very recent history and the forecast in line with our goal to make the best sourcing decision in the future. So we have forecasts for risk, we have forecasts for price. We just need a framework to combine the two. You may have noticed when we looked at the sourcing risk scores that they varied much more from country to country than the price forecasts did. In order to reduce that dispersion and make sure that the risk section doesn't do all of the heavy lifting in the final calculation, we're going to first take the natural log of each of those risk scores to compress them down. We'll still have relative differences, they'll just be slightly smaller than they were before. After we do that, we're just going to multiply them through by the price forecasts to get a single sourcing risk score for each country. Because these scores are mostly unitless and difficult to understand, we're just going to rebase each of them to a level of 1 in the United States so that we have a good starting point for our discussion. The results show that although we see China's position as the low-cost producer holding through the next 5 years, its higher risk profile doles out enough punishment to push China towards the bottom of the risk-adjusted sourcing score list. Japan and the United States, on the other hand, which were in the middle of the pack of our price discussion, moved to the top of the sourcing score list, reflecting their superior risk profiles. We'd love to talk to you more about the results of our methodology and more about the results of our presentation. Please feel free to reach out to your account manager or the product manager for this particular effort, Paul Hunt, with any questions or comments. Thanks for watching.